Hello, 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 everyone. I am your host, Nika Cherrelles, and this is the ItCast Real Talk on Sex. The ItCast is our community outreach podcast that aims to increase diversity in conversations on health and sexuality. Through this work, we're creating a world where all people feel loved, honored, and respected. I want to take a second to tell you about our Global Sexual Health and Freedom Summit coming up this October 23rd and 24th. The Global Sexual Health and Freedom Summit creates a safe space where all people come together. We will embrace humanity, diversity, and the liberation of sexual health globally. Come experience freedom, empowerment, and the ownership of our sacred sexuality. Tickets are currently on Eventbrite. There we go. And also visit our Patreon to support the ItCast and learn more about our work at theitcast.com. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel and share with your community. This week's topic is Real Talk on Sexual Freedom. And this is our very first call-in show. So this is your opportunity to call in with your questions and your comments. And the lines are hot right now, so I'm going to get into this. Today in the booth, we have Kim Harrington, Inez Teemer, and Maggie Rast talking about sexual freedom with us today. Come on into the booth. Hi. It's so good to have you all back with us again. So let's go ahead and dive in. Is there anything you'd like to share about yourselves before we start?
No, go ahead, Annette.
Okay. Well, my name's Inez. What I wanted to share is that my name's Inez Teemer. I'm from the Chicagoland area. I'm a feminine wellness coach, and I specialize in womb massages, vaginal steaming, navel and ear candling, and aesthetics and skincare. So I'm also a plant food focused sister too. I'm into the vegan and the vegetarian foods, and I love metaphysics, and I'm a Reiki practitioner, love energy work. I am totally into the holistic arena. So thank you, Nika, for having this show. Thank you so much. And also to my cohorts, Kim and Maggie.
Yes,
thank you. And I'm Maggie Rast, and I'm all about the inquiry about how creating an awesome sexual relationship can actually be the path to world peace. You can find me at worldpeacethroughawesomesex.com, and freeing our sexuality and accepting ourselves as who we are and unapologetically living our lives that we've created ourselves. That's what I'm all about.
Thank you. Yes, and I absolutely love the work that's happening in the world around this. Thank you. And Kim.
I'm a metaphysical practitioner. I'm very holistic, like Inez, and I love sex. I know Inez is a sexologist. But I'm more on the relationship difficulty side and working with people with that. So
beautiful. Yes. So we have an eclectic and wide range of voices here today, coming with all different types of perspectives. And before we get the callers on the line, I would love for us to just talk about what sexual freedom is.
I can start with that. I think, what I like to do is kind of dismantle what we were grown up with, whether it was through our parents or religion or societal beliefs. And I think you create your own thing that you want and you feel comfortable with. And there's no judgment. I mean, if you have that communication and that honesty with your partner or partners, then it's a beautiful thing. I mean, I'm so allergic to marriage. I mean, no offense, anybody that's married. I break out in hives and I go, wah, you know, but I feel, you know, if you want to be with one person, that's fine. If you want to be with a couple, that's, you know, that's fine. If you want to be with three, you know, whatever, but you create your own kind of, I don't want to say contract, but you kind of create your own reality. And then if it works with that person or other partners or persons, I think it's a beautiful thing. I've been doing it for over 20 years.
I love what you said, Kim, and I'm right there with you. Like, there is no one way to love, and whatever works for you. And I was married. I was together with my husband for 20 years, and I've been divorced for 10, and I'm really exploring like what society has told me is correct, and then what actually works for me. And it really is about authentic communication, just being yourself, exploring about what you want, what works for you, and exploring the edges. That's where I am, finding out what I do like and what I don't like.
I love that. I love that. Yeah.
Thank you. Inez? Oh, you're on mute?
You're muted.
I'm so sorry, your screen popped up. I don't know where that came from. But what sexual freedom means to me is exactly what Kim was saying. I totally agree with her. I feel like I'm in the middle passage, as they used to say it in the spiritual world, because I'm between the old school and the new school. So the old school was telling women, keep your legs closed, you can't have sex until you're married. Then the religious realm was, it's a sin to do it before you get married. All this trauma was going on. I used to hear about women that were probably sexually abused when I was growing up, and I didn't understand why this was happening. And I used to think, oh yeah, they're gonna go to hell too, or they got things like that. And I said that there has to be more to this. And then, like, growing up, my mom was saying the same thing, you know, like, you gotta be married, and girls don't do that type of thing until they get married. You know, women are whores and all that stuff, you know, and sex is nasty, it's bad. And then I thought, well, I'm here. My brother's here. It must have been good. So I said, and I'm hearing phones coming out the room. So I'm like, something's right with me. So I know as I got older, of course, I had some of those beliefs, and I realized not only they were fear, they were confusing. So that's when I started really getting deeper into the aspect. First, it was with me, because you got to heal yourself first. So I had to look like, what is my blockages? Somebody did a Reiki treatment on me. You got blockage here, you got blockage here, and it's all mainly coming from the first chakra. Oh, and then when they explained to me what that was and how that's involved in creation, that's involved in sex, and I was like, there it is. I was told how sex was nasty. So that opened me up. That was a whole new portal that opened up that I really need to explore. And that's exactly what I did. And also, being in the beauty industry, I'm licensed cosmetology instructor. For years I was doing that, and now we have to take courses, sexual abuse, sexual awareness, domestic violence, and that opened up me totally. Like, oh my God, hearing all of these things going on. And I said, there got to be some type of healing that we can do. So I met a woman at the Expo of Black Women here in Chicago, and she has a school, and I decided to take sexology and plus explore, listening to clients, seeing hearing their issues all the time, and I was like, I gotta see what's happening. I hear the good, I hear the bad. So, and I felt it was good too when I was doing it. So, so after that, I started exploring, learning about the body, learning about detoxing, learning about energy work, sexology, spirituality. And that's when I learned that everything starts in the chakra, in the first chakra. And that's for us, that's where we are. I mean, as females and men too, as well. So when I really start getting deeper into it, I just found a whole new world. It was a whole new world. And how spirituality and sex relate. And it was right there in all these spiritual books that people read, Bible, the Quran, whatever. And it's all about it right there. It's right there. Plain English. Or whatever language it's in. But here, I was like, oh my God. So that was like, I would say I've been on this path for about a little over 20 years. So
I love that, Inez. I love what you said about clearing up the blockages. And it all starts with our root chakra, which is in our growing area. And then everything comes up. And then when you can recognize, if you've been through trauma, if you've been through, some bad situations, when you can recognize that, honor it, work through it, and clear that blockage, you have the clean energy flow. And I think the most important relationship is with ourselves. Mm-hmm. So once we become like solid in ourselves, then we can have a relationship or a friendship or a sexationship, whatever you want to call it, with anybody. Right. Because, it's not going to hurt my feelings if you don't call me for 5 days. I don't give a shit. I have my own life. So I'm doing me, and we're, and I love you ladies. Y'all are just awesome, wonderful, like powerful souls. And we're co-creating and we're doing all these things, and y'all have all these different projects. And so it's not the only thing, but men have been doing this shit since the beginning of time. And then when women decide, you know what, I'm going to do this too. Like you said, Inez, we get labeled as sluts or whores or we get judged. And I also believe that so I meet my own needs. I meditate, Inez, you and I are both holistic, and we do the energy work and we're all of that. I meet my own needs. So, but for the people out there that don't do the self-work, they're looking for someone else to meet their needs. And I have found, I'm old, but I found that one person does not meet your needs. You have to meet your own needs. Exactly. And so sometimes it's okay to like a little variety. It's like, because everyone brings something different to the table.
Yeah.
So, and I don't want to be shamed for that. I don't want to, men have been doing it for years since the beginning of time. And they're called a stud. They're cool.
Yeah. So
they're a pen.
And they keep a record of it and proud of it.
Ladies, this is a wonderful conversation.
And they can brag about it. And if we do it, we have to be like, where are you going? I'm going to my friends. I'm going to Maggie's house. I don't know. I'm just I'll be back in 2 hours.
Okay.
It's ridiculous.
So, am I frozen?
No.
Good. So we actually have our first caller in the room. So thank you, ladies, for sharing around sexual freedom. Very powerful. I love what you said, Inez, about it being confusing. That's a really powerful thing to look at. And I think it can be confusing for everyone, no matter who you are, especially around sex. So our first caller in the room is Daniel. Daniel, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me? I was just interested in being a celebrity again. I get to be in a call-in show all of a sudden.
Yes. This is my brother. I love you so much, Daniel. I would love to get your thoughts on what sexual freedom is.
I didn't catch the first part of the podcast, so I'm not sure what the actual definition of sexual freedom is. But to me, sexual freedom is being fine with who you are.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I can get that.
That's beautiful. And that's what, like Kim said, you have to love yourself first. And I really didn't get that until the last few years, because there is no one person that can fulfill all your needs. Like, it's our responsibility to do what supports us, whatever that is. And it's not up to our partner to actually do anything to us. Like, they're in a partnership, it's in a dance.
Yeah, it's not to the partner to fill our voids. We have
Right.
to fill our voids and work on ourselves. And then when we're solid and we're totally not looking for anyone, everyone is attracted to you like a magnet, because you've worked on yourself. Like, don't depend on anybody else to fill your voids or, complete you. That's all bullshit. So,
Yeah.
But you know what? The thing is, I have to say this. That takes two if you're in a relationship, because he cannot complete me. He has to complete himself.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm an extension. I'm a reflection of him. Okay, just like he can't say, well, I complete you. No, you don't complete me.
Right. This is great. It's like, to your point, Daniel, around accepting yourself entirely, that is what makes you whole. Like, that's the part where you're actually bringing everything to the table and contributing 100% of yourself when you are whole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And whatever that other person wants to do, just let them freaking do it. Because the only person you have control over is yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So these young girls, and they're trying to control their man and track them on their phones and go through their phones. And, well, why didn't you ask me out tonight? Let him go out with the guys. Like, give him the free. Once you give your partner, male or female, it doesn't matter, male, female, or trans, you give them that freedom to be themselves, to do what they want to do, move how they want to move, they'll always come back to you.
That's if you want them. Because sometimes you move on. I know I've moved on. I'm like, okay. I'm on something else.
Yes, that's if you want them. Yeah.
Oh, right. So
I'm on this. I'm like,
Inez has fired a few people.
I'm
Daniel,
next.
do you have anything else you'd like to say? Anything else you'd like to say on this topic?
On the topic, wow. Being whole and being okay with yourself, I never equated those to mean the same thing, but like that was like a revelation for me today. Just like being okay with who you are and whatever your choices may be, and just running with it and being okay with that is what makes you whole. And when you're whole, that's what attracts everything to you.
Yes.
I love that, because my saying is, and I tell all my young girls this, the need for nothing attracts everything.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, work on yourself, do your shit, do the painful work, and the need for nothing attracts everything.
Yes. Thank
and the
you.
work is continuous. It's not
Oh,
just
yeah.
a one
Yeah.
time, because see, to me, it's like, and the people think, oh, I'm going to get hit. No, you gotta, it's like regurgitating all of that negativity that's been in you, the blockages and things like that. Because I knew it took me, even though I've been on this path for a long time, and actually I've been on the wellness path, I was told since I was in the high chair, because I used to eat the raw fruits and veggies and things like that. But the thing is, once I made that determination, it was like, holy crap, for the first 6 months. But now let me tell you, everybody is different. And then life happens. You know, a lot of things happens. We've had hurricanes and all of that stuff like that. So you still got to keep going healing. And then when I took that decision on, and Kim, I'm sure you can totally relate to this, the healer needs healing too, because since we are clear or clearing for people, we take their energy.
Yeah.
And then we got
Right.
to
Yeah,
holy
and
cow.
we also have you know, even when I think I've done the work and I feel good and clean energy, something will trigger me. Somebody will say something, somebody will do something, and I'm like, Kim, why is that upsetting you? And so I have to look at myself, because it's never about the other person. It's always about what we're learning about ourselves. So everyone that comes into our lives are our teachers, whether it's for 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 years, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I always try to look inward, you know, and I think that's what you're saying, Inez, because it's not just, oh, I did the work, I'm fine. Oh my God, I have to do the work every day.
Yeah,
Today.
absolutely.
It's continual. And I love what you said about people being in your life for 5 minutes or years and years. And that's also, you mentioned about people holding on to a relationship. I think the relationship is really there to teach you, for both people. And you may outgrow that relationship. And that's, society says you have to find that one person and be with that one person for your entire life. And it really is not true.
Mhm.
And if people actually dated more or had sex with more people or whatever, they would find what works for them. And there's a saying about, you don't get married right off the bat. Maybe you, and I'm butchering the saying, but you eventually get married. You find someone you want to share your life with.
Well, and you know, Maggie, that was our generation. Like, we were supposed to get married, have kids, all this crap. Like,
and you may not ever get married.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, to your point, Maggie, and I just want to disagree with you slightly.
Okay.
Having sex with as many people as you want is fantastic. And sometimes that might be no people at all.
Yes.
That's okay.
Yes.
Like, accepting yourself wherever you are around sexuality. Big. Daniel, thank you so much for calling in and being on the show. It's been really great to have you here. We are gonna move to the next guest who is popping up with us in the conversation. Walter, can you hear us?
he's on mute.
Oh, you're on mute, Walter. There we go.
Can you hear me now? Mic check.
Yes, we can hear you. Mwah, thank you so much for calling in. This is my brother, Walter. Walter, yeah, just go ahead.
Well, I saw the topic and it was saying sexual freedom. So I would guess, what does that mean to me? That would be the freedom of choice, but not exactly the freedom of consequence. And that being, yes, you can choose to be with a lot of people, but one thing that anybody that's an energy worker or healer or does Reiki or works with meridians, chakras, energy zones would know that even though you attract all kinds of energies, that still doesn't mean that you want to mix and intermingle with them. So I would say not being free of the consequences, that's one aspect. And another would be the aspect on the physical plane, which is STD, STI, your COV and variants, not to mention other bacterial infections you expose yourself to. And then lastly, the plane of, I heard you mentioning a few moments before I was released to the broadcast, that even choosing no one at all, which is a rare choice in several different circles, but at the same time, it's one that shouldn't be shamed as far as representing sexual freedom, because that is indeed a choice, even though it is not the most common taken. It is one that should be respected just as well as choosing many or one or a few within a sanctioned or established structure.
Yes. And I love what you brought to the conversation. I just want to take a second to actually talk about having the talks, like the sexual talks that need to be had before you get to the bedroom, before you're in the sheets. Like, what have your experiences been? Do you have any diseases that I should know about? You know, like what works for you, what doesn't work for you when it comes to sexuality and sensuality, but really setting up and establishing those conversations. And one of the things I think that's happening now, since we are, you know, dealing with the pandemic, is that more people are talking about who they're interacting with, who they're around, whether or not they have a cold. And I would love to see that translate into the realm of sexuality. We learn about the talk, we engage with the talk, and it's so easy for it to just go out the window out of shame, out of fear. It's like, I'm ashamed to talk about what might be going on inside my body, or I'm ashamed that I don't know. And that's a realm of sexual freedom to look at. It's like, what does it look like to not be ashamed for being human and being a sexual being?
This is huge. And Walter, you brought up a lot of good points. And by sexual freedom, I don't think we're asking people to go, you know, frolic in the streets with everyone they meet. That the sexual freedom is to choose what and who you want to be with. And there's a certain part of the population that's asexual. It just doesn't mean anything, you know, to not actually want to be with people. And then there's other people who there's a sexual energy, but they want to direct it somewhere else. You get that in a lot of the people who want to use it for enlightenment or creativity. But I think knowing that there's an energy and knowing where you want to place it rather than just being frustrated. And there was talk of the first chakra, the root chakra, and sex is as basic to human people as human people. I guess that's redundant.
As opposed to non-human people.
Yes. But it's as basic as breathing. And however that manifests for you, to know how to take care of yourself or channel the energy. And we're not saying sexual freedom is promiscuity. That's not it. It's really looking at what works for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that, Maggie. And when in the metaphysical world, and what we learn is when you combine energy, it's like an energy imprint. And it's not just an energy imprint that you're taking from that other person. It's all of their memories. It's really a powerful thing. So, you know, if you have whatever your choice is, and you have one lover, you have several lovers, if you have that communication and you have that safety and you protect yourself and you know, against STDs and everything, I mean, to me, it's more of an intimate conversation and communication and more involved than being married, than when I was married. You know, it's like we have to talk about all of these things and how do you feel about this and how can we protect ourselves? And, you know, if you're having a bad day, I'm not having sex with you. I'm just not, because I'm not going to take on any more negative energy. So, and I know Inez and Maggie, y'all are, and Nika, but we have to be mindful of our energy and everything else. I mean, we're not talking about just going out and screwing the world. It's about creating your own relationship or friendship that works for you. And it involves a lot of communication. And when there's multiple partners, there's jealousy that occurs. There's arguments that occur. I've experienced it all. So it's not all like a bed of roses, but that's what works for me.
And intimacy, you pointed to that. There's much more intimacy when you're in conversations, and there's a level of trust that gets established. And those two things are incredible in a relationship. I was married for a long time, and I'm not sure I had as intimate a relationship as I do with my partners now.
Yeah, I mean, people who are married can feel very lonely and isolated.
Yes.
Because they feel like they, you know, whether it's religious beliefs or whatever it is, and they have to stay married. And I mean, I know some of I have really good friends who feel very lonely and very isolated in marriage. So it's kind of like a catch-22.
It's the intimacy and how you create that, which is through communication.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have to say that
I disagree.
Oh, wait a second. What's that?
What?
I disagree.
Oh,
The intimacy and the things that need to be communicated clearly, to be evident and tangible. Conversation is pretty much just entertainment and time wasting. One thing that people need to do is exercise prevention, which is always better than cure. And that is by not only communicating intentions and knowing about likes and dislikes, but trusting lab results up front and building it from there, establishing the trust. Because talk is cheap, actions are what need to be watched.
absolutely, absolutely. And see, I totally agree with you on that, because with the services that I do, it's all about mindfulness too. And it's like, I always gonna check myself. If somebody comes to me telling me they had COVID or whatever else, we should, as partners, we should know that. This is just my story. But also, I don't want that energy. So you're gonna have to go and get yourself tested. And I have to see the results of it. Okay. Now, I mean, what I do, I'm not slamming the medical profession, and I tell them, I don't know. You have to go to see your doctor, or whatever. But I'm more or less on a holistic level, and I go and check myself out too. And it's not like I believe all the lab results. I'm like, I'm gonna get another opinion just to make sure. And definitely, you always have to be mindful and take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. That's why I always say it starts with self. And take care of yourself. Go get tested. Go find out what's going on. I mean, I love you, but it's like that. So, yeah. And definitely, yeah, lab results, yeah, you do. And you got to see them too. Just don't take their word.
Trust but verify.
Trust but verify.
Mhm.
Yes. So the last thing that I'm going to say to just the points that have come up, that creativity and that energy and enlightenment. There's a few things to look into. There's sexual transmutation. And then Inez, what's the other thing that happens when the man is ejaculating and then he holds it in?
Oh, semen retention.
Semen retention, yes.
Retention.
Those are both excellent ways to utilize sexuality and for creativity, enlightenment, and really like a way that you can, like you don't even have to be doing these things with other people. This is just a personal like.
Yeah, I mean, in the metaphysical world is if you want to procreate, have a baby. If you want to co-create, that's what you and Inez are talking about. This is what all of us are doing right now. We're co-creating. Yeah. So I would much rather do that than have another baby.
Well, Walter, thank you so much for calling in and being on the show. We have the lines are hot, y'all. We got people in the waiting room. So let's go ahead and bring in our next guest, Betty. And while she's doing that, is there anything else that, let's actually talk about a little bit about like your thing, Kim, with relationships in the pandemic and.
Yeah. So a lot of people do really good. So here's the bottom line. The thing with relationships or marriage is the problem that I found with myself, and I find with a lot of different people, is that you lose your identity when you're with somebody else. So and then when you're cooped up and you have to stay in the house and work at home and everything else, it's a nightmare. So a lot of people are struggling with that because you need to have your own space. And like we all talked about earlier, you need to work on yourself, self-love, love yourself first. We've got to do that. You can't change anybody else. You can't change their behavior. So I feel like it's just, the thing with marriage is that you lose your identity because it's, somebody comes home or they're in the house already and they're moody. And so you have to react to their action. So you can't really be yourself and you can't really relax all the time. So you're either trying to appease this person, reacting to an action, or you're fighting with this person. So the true colors and everything really come out now. So there's been a lot of discord and in relationships right now.
Well, not to bash marriages or anything, but it really does, being close to someone all the time, and that's where you need to know what fills your tank, so to speak, gives you energy, and spend it. For me, I know I'm right on the borderline. I need to be with people and I need my alone time. And so I know that either direction will deplete my energy. And that's a conversation. And COVID has actually had us deal with that. And some people love being with their family. And they are really getting strong bonds and doing things and discovering what awesome people they are. And then other people are discovering they really don't want to spend that much time with their family. And that is a balance. And once we're in these tight situations, we actually can start seeing what works and doesn't work. And the tip is, if it's not working, figure out what works for you. If you need to go out and sit in a garden for an hour a day so you can be with people, that's about you. And take care of yourself and do that. And ask your partners. I mean, one thing with my marriage is my husband was always home. I was like, I didn't get any alone time.
Oh, wow.
And Tuesday nights he was at class, but when I'd come around the corner, and that was the time for me and my dog to watch television and be on the couch and just be by myself. And when I would turn the corner and see his car like he had skipped class, I'd go, oh my God. Because that was my recharging time.
Yeah.
Not that I didn't like my husband. It's just I needed that time.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So just for the record, we had a little glitch in Zoom, and we actually don't have any guests coming up at the moment. So we're just going to continue the conversation. And everyone, this is our first call-in show. So check the chat, check social media for the number, and please feel free to join the conversation with us. Yes, and to your point, Maggie, I had a relationship like that as well, where it was just a matter of like, I don't have space to breathe. Like, we were around each other 24/7, unless we're at work, and that's not space to breathe either. Like, there was no freedom there, no autonomy or freedom of movement. And there is something to be said for having that space and really like owning and being able to work in that space, such that you can create and breathe and do the things you need to do and recharge, as you said.
Yeah, just time to like be with yourself. Sorry, go ahead, Inez.
No, I was going to totally agree. And I was like, sometimes you don't even have to be married. You just need to get away and go. Because I know I feel like that. And I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah.
And the trick is not to let it get to that point. Like, to actually create the relationship with your partner, whatever that looks like, so that you are each taking care of the other one. Like, coming in, and my husband was great because I used to apologize for everything, and a lot of women do that. And he put like a no apology sign on my desk, one of those circles with a slash through them. And he actually brought my attention to the fact that I was apologizing. I think I apologized to a table for bumping into it.
I heard that.
Oh my God, Maggie, are you a pleaser?
I'm a recovering pleaser.
Oh no.
Stop that.
I'm learning. This is after my marriage. I'm actually learning that it's not great to please people all the time above yourself.
It's
a balance.
Oh, you gotta please yourself first.
Absolutely.
Ooh, yeah.
And just to throw this in, codependency is a very real thing, and it can rob us of our happiness, that sense of self, as we've mentioned before, because you're losing yourself in other people, like giving all the power away to other people. And that's not freedom either, not even in the least bit.
Well, Mother Teresa said that. She said one of her people came in and it was time to cut off for the day. And the woman was like, there's so many people that need so much help. And Mother Teresa said, basically, if you don't take care of yourself, you don't have anything to give the other person.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So all the people who are wearing themselves out to please their partners, don't do it. It's counterintuitive. Don't do it.
You just have to say no sometimes.
Well, you have to set boundaries, and you can't pour from an empty cup. So yourself is the most important thing. We have no control over anyone else but ourselves. So if we get upset, if we get pissed off, whatever, we have to look inward and say, why am I allowing that person to piss me off? Is this a trigger from my parents? Is it a trigger from whatever? And allow yourself a little bit of time to be pissed off and process it and let it go. Because I refuse to give anybody time and space in my head to where it's a negative energy vibe. Like it's just not going to happen. So I try to, you know, squish it down, make it fast, figure it out, and move on.
Yeah.
So
But
Go
you
ahead.
know what, you said something, Kim, and that's a special word, is trigger. Because
Yeah.
it took me a long time to really understand the triggers were old wounds that aren't healed. So now it's like, I mean, we got to keep getting that message out. That
well, and then Inez,
partner,
even though we do the energy work and we clear the blockages and we do all that, we're still going to be triggered. You know, I asked.
No, I get that. I get that. I'm talking about old wounds that were, because I know things out there I will get triggered. I know that.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about when we have old wounds that reoccur in our lives, the same thing over and over and over and over. And it's like, when you gonna heal that? When you gonna clear that?
Yeah, that's how we get into those repetitive patterns of
Exactly.
behavior. And it's like to get into that space without even being pushed that hard. It's like someone will say something and all of a sudden, you know, it takes you back and pushes at that wound.
Or it's like, you know, when I had my sister circle, it's like when we always say how we attract the same man or the same relationships over and over again. And,
Yes.
and if they do something, that trigger comes in.
Unless you work through it. And that's really my thing is the world will give you as many chances to learn the lesson as you need, and the knock will be louder and louder and louder until you do. I broke my wrist, and it was funny because I wasn't in pain at all, and it was a bad break. And I thought, this is the world telling me I actually need to slow down. I need to ask for help. And it was because how can you have a break and not? They gave me pain pills. I didn't even need them, but it'll give you as many chances. And I ask people really to look if they're getting angry at a lot of stuff. Like, what is it that it's bumping up against? Because being angry all the time is just no fun.
Or angry at someone too.
Yes.
Right.
And being triggered, like someone pushes your buttons. Like, I know my siblings, even as an adult, I know how to piss them off if I want to. And the funny thing is, it's like you push a button and they dance. And they have no control over it. But if you actually do the work, you're not a puppet anymore. And then I also say, give yourself compassion. Give yourself the same compassion you would for a friend. And don't keep like beating on your head for some like perceived perfection you need to achieve.
Yes,
That's wonderful.
It's like compassion to me. I'm glad you said that. That's a beautiful thing. And it goes back to sexology and sex and sexual health and sexual freedom. It's intimacy for self.
Yes.
Yes. This is a really perfect time to segue. So these wonderful ladies are my co-creators for the Global Sexual Health and Freedom Summit. And I would love for us to spend a few minutes just talking about what that looks like, what we're creating, and share that with everyone who's out there so that they can participate with us.
Brilliant.
Take it away, Maggie.
Oh, I was going to say, brilliant. Like, we got together because we're all in this conversation for empowering sex and sexuality, whatever it looks like in the world to you. We're not saying like any cookie cutter things, but we're doing this summit. It's a virtual summit, so people around the world can be on it. It's 2 days. We have amazing speakers on a whole range of sexuality, from consent to I just like how society has for 5,000 years have told us what we should do and what we should be, to cultural differences around the world. Mark has a brilliant collection of sex films, from education, from advertisements around the world, to get a flavor like how we hold sex is not how everyone else holds sex. And how we individually hold sex is not necessarily the truth. And to actually look beyond what society has said, because I think we're on the tipping point. And my area is that one path to world peace will be through creating awesome sexual relationships, whatever that looks like, and the intimacy that goes with it, and the respect that goes with it, and the respect to actually honor what someone else might feel, even if you don't believe it or agree with it, but they still have a truth that lives with them. And if we could respect those differences of opinions, like with religion, with politics, with all of this stuff, and realize that humanity is a crazy quilt of wonderful patterns, and we are not homogenous, and we equate equality and freedom with being homogenous, and it's not. There are many ways to live life. So I'll turn it back to the rest of you, because I could talk on this forever.
Well, I mean, thank you, Maggie. That was really beautiful. And what's awakening me is, with this summit coming up, is the sacred sexuality, the spiritual sexuality, because that's where it all begins. Our connection, not only with self, because that's the first thing, but also having a common unity on soul to soul. And it took me years to come to that realization. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the good looking and the bodybuilders and the built men, but I knew something was missing, and it's the heart to heart connection, the spirituality. And I feel we're all spiritual beings. And that is what, through my work and through the clearing, is sacred sexuality. So I'm so excited about this summit that's coming up, and with the wellness, of course. You know, that's like my twin. So and it's gonna be it's fantastic, because we're covering everything, including sexuality, the sexuality, the spirituality, the youth, how this affects the youth, and about breakups. Do you know there is a sacred way to break up in relationships? And we don't even realize that. We just say, look, I don't want to be bothered with that person. I mean, I've been there, still catch myself doing it. But when I learned everything now on the spiritual level, because that's what happens once you start doing yourself and helping others, you're gonna constantly evolve. And when I evolved into it spiritually, I was like, oh, I'm not leaving. I can't. So bringing that to the table is very important in this. And I'm looking forward to it in October. And also we're on Clubhouse. We're on Clubhouse. We have a room on Clubhouse. You can look for us, Nika Cherrelles, Inez Teemer, in your sexuality. And we just have casual conversations, just like this, just casual.
Yeah. And I love what you said about breakups. What if, I mean, if you're in an intimate relationship and you break up, what if we broke up because we were incompatible to live with, and we didn't let it get to the point where we hated that person, that we actually respected who we loved, and that it just didn't work? It's not like we hate them.
And we still honor them as a
That's
human
beautiful.
being, a
That's
sacred being. Not like, oh, I don't want to be bothered with that person. I'm gonna block them on Facebook. I'll block them here, block them there. No, that's toxic. That's real. Think about that. I mean, not only childish, it's toxic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Go ahead,
It's
Kim.
I love that. I mean, and I still believe that people come into your life for 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 years, whatever it is, to teach you a lesson. And my struggle that I have right now is with the younger youth and the younger women who are staying in a relationship that they know is toxic because they haven't done the work on themselves, or they don't have the self-worth, or they've had past trauma, or they're, feeding off of this person to get, their self-worth or whatever it is. So that's my big struggle right now. I just want to be able to empower, especially the younger females, to know you're okay if you're working on yourself, or you're by yourself for a while, or even being asexual, like we talked about, Nika, and or take a sabbatical from it, and then when you exchange energy with someone, it's going to do a number on you, because one person is going to like the other person more. It always happens that way. So then there's this imbalance of energy. But my thing is with the young girls, I just want them to be empowered and not stay in a bad relationship, because, I was talking to someone this morning, and I was like, you've been in this relationship a long time. You can't get that time back. What have you learned about yourself? What's your plan? What are you going to do? What are you going to, and these things are so vital to me and so important. When I was married, my ex-husband, he was in the military. He was gone all the time. It was a perfect thing for me, because I get claustrophobic if I have to cohabitate with somebody, or if I have to, whatever. And we weren't together enough to get on each other's nerves or to fight or anything else. And then when he got out of the military, I was like, oh, okay, this is not going to work for me. And it's not that he's a bad person. It's not that I'm a bad person. I'm just not wired for it. And I think that's what this whole thing is about sexual freedom. Like, what works for you, talk to your partner or partners, see what works for you. But I'm very passionate about the young girls. I mean, because I don't know what the fear is of being alone. I don't know. I don't understand these things. And so I'm constantly trying to have them focus on themselves, because it's never about the other person. It's never about your partner. It's what they're teaching you. It's like a mirror image. So it's what can we learn about ourselves?
Yeah. Thank you.
Well,
Thank
you know what,
so
Kim, real
much.
quick. I don't think you're trying, you are doing it. And that is a fantabulous thing that you are doing, because actually what I'm thinking we're a safe person for them to embrace. We're safe. We're a safe, not just having a safe place, but we're a safe person they can come to. So that's all I want to say.
And it's interesting because it's not only women. Guys will stay in relationships, but it's especially for women because of what society says. And to your point about not being able to live with someone, if you love someone and want to be partners with them, you can live in separate houses and just get together. You
They
know,
do that.
you can create whatever works. Like even marriage doesn't have to mean that you live together.
There are marriages
Amen,
like
sister.
that. Amen.
Amen,
Yes.
sister.
Yes.
Okay. Oh my God. On that note, I'm just gonna, so the Global Sexual Health and Freedom Summit for me is all about increasing diversity, really getting these conversations to impact the medical industry as well as the people who go through that industry and to touch people worldwide. We all participate in sex on some level, whether we have sex or not, we were born. So there's something going on out there, and we want to make sure that it is inclusive and all the conversations are being had such that we are eliminating shame and healing the world. I'm going to go ahead and wrap the show. Thank you so much for being here and for enlivening this conversation. This is the ItCast, our community outreach podcast that aims to increase diversity in conversations on health and sexuality. Through this work, we are creating a world where all people feel loved, honored, and respected. The Global Sexual Health and Freedom Summit is coming up this October 23rd and 24th, and it creates a safe space where all people come together. We will embrace humanity, diversity, and the liberation of sexual health globally. Come experience freedom, empowerment, and ownership of our sacred sexuality.
Hey.
Yay!
What's up?
Visit us on Patreon and support the ItCast. Learn more about our work at NikaCherrelles.com and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Share it with your community. Push the button wherever it is. Thank you.
Look at it on YouTube on Fire Stick, everything, so you can see it on your TV.
And we will see you here next week. Thank you.
Okay.